was stuck light years away on Earth.
Everything since you left.
It's not my fault. I know how it feels. Then we fall. The judge.
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, wherever video brings entertainment to life. Masters of the Universe, also released in some international territories as He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, is a 2026 American epic sword and sorcery fantasy adventure comedy film based on Mattel's iconic Masters of the Universe franchise, serving as the second live-action adaptation of the property following the 1987 cult classic. The film was directed by Travis Knight from a screenplay written by Chris Butler, Aaron Ney, Adam Ney, and David Callahan. The film stars Nicholas Galitzine as Prince Adam, He-Man, alongside an ensemble cast featuring Camila Mendes, Jared Leto, Alison Brie, James Purefoy, J.A. Hans Hawker, J.A. Hannison, Charlotte Riley, Kristen Wiig, Morena Baccarin, and Idris Elba. Set primarily on the mystical planet of Eternia, the story follows Prince Adam as he is forced to return to his war-torn homeland after years away. Accepting his long-awaited destiny as the legendary champion He-Man, Adam must embrace the power of Castle Grayskull, unite Eternia's greatest heroes, and confront the tyrannical forces of the evil Skeletor before darkness consumes the realm and threatens the balance of the universe. Development of a new live-action Masters of the Universe film began in 2009 when Sony Pictures Entertainment acquired their rights with escape artists attached to produce. Over the next decade, The project experienced numerous creative overhauls, including multiple changes in writers, directors, producers, and casting, causing repeated delays. In 2022, the project moved to Netflix, where a new creative team reworked the screenplay and direction. However, Netflix ultimately cancelled the production before filming began. In 2024, Amazon MGM Studios acquired the rights and revived the project with Travis Knight directing and a newly assembled cast. Principal photography took place in London, England, between January and June 2025, utilizing extensive practical sets, large-scale visual effects, and elaborate fantasy production designed to faithfully recreate the world of Eternia. Masters of the Universe had its world premiere at the TCL Chinese Theater in Los Angeles, California, on May 18, 2026, before being released theatrically in the United States by Amazon MGM Studios on June 5, 2026, with Sony Pictures releasing international handling distribution in several overseas markets. Upon release, the film received mixed reviews from critics, who praised its visual spectacle, production design, action sequences, and Nicholas Galitzine's portrayal of He-Man, while criticism was directed toward its uneven tone, pacing, and screenplay. Despite generating significant anticipation among longtime fans of the franchise, the film underperformed commercially, grossing approximately $111 million worldwide against a reported production budget of $178-200 million, making it a box office disappointment. Nevertheless, Amazon MGM Studios and Mattel Studios have expressed continued confidence in the franchise, with the sequel officially in development as part of broader plans to expand the Masters of the Universe cinematic universe. The story begins on the mystical planet of Eternia and the royal capital of Eternos, where the young prince Adam, heir to the throne, is raised alongside his childhood friend Teela. Under the guidance of the legendary warrior Duncan, the kingdom's man-at-arms and Teela's adoptive father, the two train to become defenders of the realm as tensions grow between Eternia and the dark forces gathering beyond Snake Mountain. Their peaceful lives are shattered when the evil warlock Skeletor launches a devastating surprise invasion upon Eternos with his army of monstrous warriors. During the brutal assault, Duncan is gravely wounded in battle after confronting the cybernetic mercenary Trapjaw, while King Randor and Queen Marlena are captured and imprisoned. Realizing the kingdom has fallen and that the last hope of Eternia rests with its young prince, the sorceress of Castle Grayskull opens a magical portal to Earth, the Queen Marlena's original homeworld. Before sending Adam through the portal for his own protection, she entrusts him with the legendary Sword of Power, explaining that only he can one day wield the power of Grayskull and restore peace to Eternia. During his escape to Earth, however, Adam loses possession of the sacred sword, leaving both his destiny and Eternia's future uncertain. 15 years later, Adam has grown into an ordinary young man living in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, completely disconnected from his royal heritage. Working in the human resources department of a local company, he struggles to reconcile the extraordinary memories of his childhood with the ordinary life he now leads. His closest friend and roommate, Hussein, has heard Adam's unbelievable stories about another world for years but dismisses them as elaborate fantasies born from childhood trauma. Adam himself has become obsessed with locating the lost Sword of Power, believing it is the only tangible proof that Eternia truly existed. One evening, he mysteriously receives an anonymous text message directing him to a local comic book store, where, hidden among collectible memorabilia, he discovers the long-lost Sword of Power. Before he can understand how it arrived there, police arrest him after the sword is mistaken for stolen property. While being transported across a freeway, the convoy is violently ambushed by Beast-Man, Skeletor's savage and bestial lieutenant, who has tracked the sword's magical energy across dimensions. Before Beast-Man can capture Adam, Teela, now a seasoned warrior and one of the last surviving defenders of Eternia, arrives aboard an advanced Eternian aircraft after sensing the sword's reactivation. She rescues Adam, and together they escape through a dimensional gateway back to their devastated homeworld. Adam returns to Eternia for the first time since childhood and is horrified to discover that the once glorious kingdom has become a ruined wasteland after years of Skeletor's tyrannical occupation. The surviving heroes of Eternia, including Fisto, Ram Man, Mechanic, Dian, Mossman, and other resistance fighters, have been forced into hiding among the ruins. Having grown bitter over Adam's disappearance years earlier, they dismiss him as an unworthy outsider rather than the prince they once knew. Their resentment is fueled by memories of Adam's youthful immaturity and the playful nicknames he once gave many of them. Adam and Teela are imprisoned alongside Duncan, who has become a broken alcoholic haunted by his failure to protect the royal family, and Roboto, a once powerful combat robot that Skeletor's forces have reprogrammed into little more than a servant. After escaping captivity, Adam gradually earns Duncan's forgiveness and convinces the surviving warriors that he has returned to fight for Eternia rather than abandon it again. The reunion is interrupted when Skeletor's army attacks their hideout. During the battle, Trapjaw attempts to seize Teela's ship, forcing Adam to finally embrace the destiny he has long feared. Raising the sword of power and proclaiming the ancient words, he channels the mystical power of Grayskull for the very first time, transforming into the legendary warrior He-Man. Empowered beyond imagination, He-Man defeats Trapjaw in spectacular fashion and inspires the resistance with renewed hope. Recognizing that Adam has reclaimed the sword of power, Skeletor launches a merciless campaign to force his surrender. His army captures the remaining resistance fighters, and Skeletor publicly executes Mossman after Fisto refuses to reveal Adam's whereabouts. Unable to watch more innocent lives be sacrificed, Fisto reluctantly admits that Adam possesses the sword. Skeletor then contacts Adam directly, revealing that King Randor and Queen Marlena are still alive after all these years and offering their freedom in exchange for the Sword of Power. Believing he can save both his parents and his kingdom, Adam, accompanied by Teela and Duncan, infiltrates Snake Mountain. Battling through Skeletor's elite guards, Adam reaches the throne room, where he confronts Skeletor in a fierce duel. Although He-Man's strength initially overwhelms his enemy, the conflict triggers the collapse of part of Snake Mountain. During the chaos, King Randor is mortally wounded while protecting his son. The emotional shock causes Adam to lose consciousness and revert to his mortal form. He, Teela, Duncan, and Queen Marlena are subsequently captured and imprisoned deep within Snake Mountain's dungeons, where Adam is joyfully reunited with his loyal tiger companion, Krendor, who has survived years of captivity. Frustrated by his inability to unlock the Sword of Power's magic, Skeletor learns from his ambitious advisor Evelyn that the sword's full power can only be awakened through an ancient ritual within Castle Grayskull itself. Before Skeletor can complete his plan, Adam and his companions escape imprisonment and reunite with the remaining heroes of Eternia. Together they organize a final assault to liberate the kingdom once and for all. As the armies of good and evil clash outside Castle Grayskull in an epic battle, Duncan confronts Trapjaw in a long-awaited rematch, ultimately killing his old enemy but suffering tremendous injuries in the process. Roboto courageously sacrifices himself to protect their resistance, giving his allies time to breach the castle's defenses. Riding into battle atop Krendor, who transforms into the mighty Battle Cat, He-Man storms Castle Grayskull while Teela duels Evelyn in a fierce magical battle and Battle Cat confronts Beast Man. Deep within the castle, He-Man and Skeletor engage in their ultimate confrontation. During the duel, Skeletor uses the destructive energy of the Havoc Staff to shatter the Sword of Power before stabbing Adam. As Adam collapses, Skeletor invades his mind with powerful magic, trapping him within painful memories of his lonely years on Earth and attempting to convince him that his life as Prince Adam was meaningless. Within the spiritual realm of Grayskull, the sorceress appears before Adam and reveals the true secret of the power of Grayskull. The magic never truly resided within the sword itself but has always existed within Adam's courage, compassion, and willingness to protect others. Inspired by her words, Adam overcomes Skeletor's psychological torment and rediscovers his inner strength. The shattered Sword of Power miraculously reforms in his hands as he once again calls upon the power of Grayskull, transforming into He-Man in his most powerful form. Rather than seeking revenge, Adam offers Skeletor one final opportunity to end their conflict peacefully, drawing upon the empathy and humanity he developed during his years living on Earth. Skeletor rejects the offer without hesitation, proudly declaring that he embraces his role as the villain and has no desire for redemption. Their final battle erupts across Castle Grayskull, ending when He-Man redirects the destructive energy of the Havoc staff back upon its master. The staff is completely destroyed, and Skeletor's own dark magic consumes him, reducing his body to dust and seemingly ending his reign forever. Amid the chaos, however, Evelyn secretly escapes before the castle falls. 6 months later, peace has returned to Eternia as Queen Marlena resumes her rightful place upon the throne and begins rebuilding the kingdom alongside the surviving heroes. Duncan has recovered from his injuries, while Roboto is reconstructed and welcomed back into the royal court. Hussein is brought from Earth to Eternia, where he finally witnesses with his own eyes that Adam's incredible stories were true all along. As the kingdom celebrates its newfound peace, Teela asks Adam whether the legendary champion should have a proper heroic name. After a moment of quiet reflection, Adam proudly embraces the identity he has finally earned, introducing himself as He-Man. Moments later, when a new threat emerges, Adam and Cringer transform once again into He-Man and Battle Cat before charging into action as Eternia's greatest protectors. In a closing epilogue, the whimsical troll and magician Orko appears to deliver the story's traditional moral lesson. Meanwhile, Queen Marlena privately confides to Duncan that, despite Eternia's liberation, she has reluctantly accepted that she may never be reunited with both of her children. Duncan remains hopeful, believing that the missing royal heir can still be found. The scene then shifts to the distant world of Etheria, where Prince Adam's long-lost twin sister, Princess Adora, is revealed leading a fierce rebellion against the Horde within the Fright Zone, hinting at her destiny as a future legendary heroine. In a final post-credits scene, Evelyn secretly returns to the ruins of Castle Grayskull and retrieves the charred remains of Skeletor's skull. As she departs into the darkness, Skeletor's unmistakable evil laughter echoes through the ruins, revealing that his defeat was not the end and setting the stage for the next chapter in the Masters of the Universe saga. Here's the cast section rewritten into a more comprehensive, encyclopedia-style paragraph format with expanded character descriptions and updated narrative flow. The film stars Nicholas Galitzine as Adam Glenn, Prince Adam, He-Man, the long-lost heir to the throne of Eternia who was secretly transported to Earth as a child after Skeletor's conquest of the kingdom. Raised in Oklahoma under the surname Glenn, Adam grows up unaware of the full extent of his royal heritage while struggling with fragmented memories of his childhood. After rediscovering the legendary Sword of Power, he returns to Eternia, embraces his destiny, and transforms into the legendary champion He-Man, the chosen protector of Castle Grayskull and the defender of the universe. Artie Wilkinson Hunt portrays the young Prince Adam during the film's opening prologue, depicting his childhood before Eternia's fall. Camila Mendes portrays Teela, the fearless captain of the Royal Guard of Eternia and one of the kingdom's greatest warriors. As the adoptive daughter of Duncan, she was raised alongside Prince Adam and remained fiercely loyal to the royal family after Skeletor seized control of Eternia, spending years leading the surviving resistance against Skeletor's occupation. Teela becomes the first of Adam's childhood companions to find him on Earth and guide him back to his homeland. Throughout the story, she serves as Adam's closest ally, trusted battlefield commander, emotional anchor, and eventual romantic partner while helping him mature into the hero Eternia needs. Era Farrell appears as the young Teela during the film's opening sequence. Idris Elba plays Duncan, man-at-arms, the legendary military commander of Eternia, master inventor, and King Rander's most trusted general. As Teela's adoptive father and Prince Adam's lifelong mentor, Duncan trained both children in the arts of combat before Skeletor's invasion. Left physically and emotionally scarred after failing to protect the royal family during Eternia's downfall, he spends years living in isolation before rediscovering his purpose alongside Adam's return. Equipped with an arsenal of advanced Eternian weaponry, tactical expertise, and mechanical inventions, Duncan once again becomes one of the heroic warriors leading the final battle to reclaim Eternia. Jared Leto portrays Skeletor, the film's primary antagonist and the ruthless overlord of Eternia, a powerful skull-faced dark sorcerer obsessed with obtaining the limitless magic of Castle Grayskull. Skeletor overthrows the royal family and rules the planet through fear, cruelty, and overwhelming military force. Believing that only the Sword of Power can grant him ultimate control over Grayskull's ancient magic, he relentlessly pursues Prince Adam across worlds, manipulating both his allies and enemies alike in his quest for absolute domination. His ideological conflict with Adam ultimately centers on the choice between ruling through fear or protecting others through selflessness. Alison Brie stars as Evelyn, Skeletor's brilliant and dangerously ambitious second-in-command. Once a gifted sorceress of Eternia, she abandoned the kingdom and pledged her loyalty to Skeletor in exchange for greater magical knowledge and power. Serving as both strategist and mystic advisor, Evelyn orchestrates many of Skeletor's schemes while secretly harboring ambitions that extend beyond merely serving her master. Her mastery of dark magic makes her one of Eternia's most formidable spellcasters and the chief magical rival to both the sorceress and Tila. James Purefoy portrays King Rander, the courageous ruler of Eternos and rightful king of Eternia, husband of Queen Marlena and father of Prince Adam. Rander fights valiantly against Skeletor's invasion before being captured and imprisoned alongside his queen. Even after years of captivity, he remains devoted to his family and kingdom, ultimately sacrificing himself to protect Adam during their rescue from Snake Mountain. Charlotte Riley plays Queen Marlena, the wise and compassionate Queen of Eternia. Originally an astronaut from Earth whose spacecraft accidentally crossed dimensions before she settled on Eternia, Marlena eventually married King Rander and became co-ruler of the kingdom. As Adam's mother, she understands both Earth and Eternia better than anyone, making her instrumental in Adam's journey toward reconciling his dual identities. Following Skeletor's defeat, Marlena resumes leadership of the kingdom and begins rebuilding Eternia while quietly continuing to search for her missing daughter. Morena Baccarin portrays the sorceress, the mystical guardian of Castle Grayskull and protector of the ancient power of Grayskull. Possessing extraordinary magical abilities and profound knowledge of Eternia's history, she serves as Adam's spiritual guide throughout his journey. It is the sorceress who sends the young prince safely to Earth, entrusts him with the Sword of Power, and ultimately teaches him that true strength comes not from the weapon itself but from the courage and compassion within his own heart. Among Adam's fellow heroic warriors, Hans Hawker Hannison portrays Fisto, a legendary warrior recognized by his enormous enchanted metal right hand, whose immense strength makes him one of Eternia's greatest champions despite his gruff exterior. John Zhuzhong appears as Ram-Man, an unstoppable frontline fighter whose armored body and devastating headbutt attacks make him one of the Resistance's strongest soldiers. James Wilkinson portrays Mechanic, a mechanically enhanced heroic warrior capable of extending his telescopic neck over extraordinary distances for reconnaissance and combat, while Christian Bettridge plays Diane, a royal guard who once bullied Adam during childhood but later becomes one of the Resistance fighters defending Eternia. Stephen Adden appears as Mossman, a gentle but powerful humanoid plant guardian deeply connected to Eternia's natural world, whose tragic sacrifice inspires the heroic warriors to unite against Skeletor's tyranny. Serving among Skeletor's evil warriors are Sam C. Wilson as Trapjaw, the ruthless cyborg mercenary equipped with interchangeable mechanical weapons, and one of Skeletor's deadliest enforcers Coach Oda as Triclops, an elite warrior whose rotating triple mechanical eyes provide enhanced combat vision and tactical awareness. James Apps as Spicker, a heavily armored brute covered in deadly spikes who thrives in close-quarters combat, and Aaron Bossy as Pigboy, one of Skeletor's savage beast-like soldiers who serves among the dictator's loyal followers. Beastman, Skeletor's ferocious animal-controlling lieutenant, serves as one of the principal commanders of the evil warriors throughout the film. On Earth, Christian Unapilla portrays Hussein, Adam's loyal best friend and roommate in Oklahoma City. Although initially skeptical of Adam's stories about Eternia, Hussein remains one of the few people who genuinely believes in him and is ultimately rewarded by witnessing the truth firsthand after being invited to Eternia following Skeletor's defeat. Sashkirs Amata plays Susie, Adam's pragmatic but supportive supervisor at the Human Resources Office where he works before rediscovering his true destiny. The film also features several notable special appearances. Dolph Lundgren, who famously portrayed He-Man in the original 1987 live-action Masters of the Universe film, makes a cameo appearance as the charismatic Macho Man, whom Adam briefly encounters at a local gym during his life on Earth, serving as a tribute to the franchise's cinematic legacy. In the film's mid-credits sequence, Laurence Aliou makes her debut as Princess Adora, Adam's long-lost twin sister and the future legendary heroine She-Ra, revealed to be leading a rebellion against the Horde on the neighboring world of Etheria. Adora's appearance establishes the foundation for the franchise's next chapter while teasing her eventual reunion with Adam and the continuation of the Masters of the Universe saga. Several major non-human characters are brought to life through a combination of voice performances, motion capture acting, physical performers, and computer-generated visual effects. Kristen Wiig voices Roboto, an advanced attorney and combat android originally designed as one of the kingdom's greatest mechanical defenders. Possessing immense physical strength, durability, advanced tactical programming, and an unwavering sense of loyalty, Roboto initially serves the heroic warriors before being captured by Skeletor's forces and reprogrammed into a domestic servant following Eternia's fall. After being rescued by Prince Adam, Duncan, and Teela, Roboto gradually regains his heroic purpose and joins the resistance against Skeletor, ultimately sacrificing himself during the climactic battle of Castle Grayskull before later being rebuilt during Eternia's restoration. Pietro Michael provides the voice of the Eternian ship, Teela's highly advanced artificial intelligence system that operates her interdimensional spacecraft. Acting as both navigator and onboard tactical computer, the ship assists the heroes throughout their journey between Earth and Eternia by analyzing threats, coordinating battle strategies, monitoring the surrounding environment, and providing real-time mission support during numerous combat encounters. Christopher Ragland voices Orko, the whimsical troll and magician from the parallel world of Trolla and one of Eternia's most recognizable magical allies. Although absent from the film's main narrative, Orko makes a memorable appearance during one of the post-credits scenes, humorously delivering the traditional moral lesson associated with the classic Masters of the Universe franchise while teasing his future involvement in the continuing adventures of He-Man and his companions. Gary Martin voices Beast Man, one of Skeletor's most loyal generals and among the most feared members of the Evil Warriors, a massive ape-like humanoid possessing extraordinary physical strength, heightened senses, and the supernatural ability to mentally dominate and command wild creatures. Beast Man relentlessly pursues Prince Adam after the Sword of Power is rediscovered on Earth. Throughout the film he serves as one of Skeletor's principal battlefield commanders before ultimately facing Kringo transformed into the mighty Battle Kata during the climactic battle at Castle Grayskull. The character's physical performance was created through extensive motion capture work by John King and James Unsworth, whose performances form the basis for the fully computer-generated character. Tom Wilton voices Krendur, Prince Adam's loyal talking green tiger and lifelong animal companion. Gentle, cautious, and deeply devoted to Adam despite his naturally timid personality, Krendur remains imprisoned alongside the royal family for years before reuniting with his master inside Snake Mountain. During the final battle, the mystical power of Grayskull transforms him into Battle Cat, a colossal armored war tiger whose immense strength, speed, and fearlessness make him He-Man's legendary mount and closest combat partner as they charge into battle together. Fletcher Glenn provides the voice of the young Krendur during the film's opening prologue depicting Adam's childhood on Eternia. Kellen Goff voices Goat Man, a towering beast-like warrior serving among Skeletor's evil warriors. Renowned for his brutal fighting style, overwhelming physical power, and unwavering loyalty to Skeletor's regime, Goat Man participates in several major battles against the heroic warriors during Eternia's liberation. The character's imposing physical performance is portrayed on set by Hoffa 3/4 tilde cubed RJA tilde superscripto allows BJA tilde Pilkrorensen, whose motion capture and live-action work provide the foundation for the digitally enhanced character. Ben Prinsky voices Karg, one of Skeletor's veteran evil warriors and a ruthless enforcer distinguished by the large metal hook replacing his left hand. Serving as a trusted battlefield commander within Skeletor's occupying forces, Karg assists in maintaining the tyrant's control over Eternia and takes part in several confrontations with the heroic warriors during the film. The character is physically portrayed through motion capture and on-set performance by Hung Dante Dong, whose work is combined with computer-generated visual effects to bring the classic villain to life. It looks like the section you pasted is development, not voices. Here's the rewritten version in a detailed, modern encyclopedia-style paragraph format. Development of a new live-action Masters of the Universe film underwent one of the longest and most complicated production histories of any major Hollywood franchise, spanning nearly 2 decades before finally reaching theaters. Following the commercial failure of the 1987 live-action adaptation, several attempts were made to revive the property. In 2007, acclaimed action filmmaker John Woo was reportedly attached to direct a new live-action reboot for Warner Bros. Pictures. Although the project never progressed beyond the early stages of development and was ultimately never officially greenlit, as the proposed production stalled, the film rights reportedly reverted to Mattel, allowing the toy company to begin pursuing a new adaptation with different studio partners. In the following years, Warner Bros. Pictures announced that John Stevenson, best known for directing Kung Fu Panda, had become attached to direct a new Masters of the Universe feature film. In May 2009, screenwriter Evan Doherty was hired to write the screenplay while Stevenson remained attached as director. However, later that year the project underwent a major shift when Sony Pictures Entertainment acquired the film rights from Warner Bros. After Mattel and producer Joel Silver, who had previously been developing the project, were unable to agree on its creative direction. Sony assigned the film to Columbia Pictures, with escape artists producers Todd Black, Jason Blumenthal, and Steve Tisch rebuilding the adaptation from the ground up rather than continuing previous drafts. In April 2010, screenwriters Mike Finch and Alex Litvick were hired to produce an entirely new screenplay as Sony searched for the creative approach that would successfully modernize the franchise for contemporary audiences. Development continued throughout the early 2010s with numerous creative revisions. By late 2012, filmmaker John M. Chu entered negotiations to direct the film, while original He-Man actor Dolph Lundgren publicly expressed interest in returning to the franchise in the role of King Randor. Around the same period, Richard Wank was brought in to rewrite the screenplay. Chu later described, throughout 2014 and 2015, Sony met with numerous filmmakers as the studio attempted to move the project into production. Directors including Joe Cornish, Rian Johnson, Andre Dilda, copyright S. Muschianti, Kirk Dimeko, Chris Sanders, Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, Mike Cahill, Jeff Wadlow, Harold Swart, and Chris Mackay were all reportedly considered at various stages. Eventually, Jeff Wadlow emerged as the leading candidate and began rewriting the screenplay while preparing to direct. Despite this progress, Sony continued refining the project, and in August 2015 veteran comic book writer Christopher Yost was hired to produce yet another screenplay revision. Another significant creative overhaul occurred in 2016 when director MCG officially joined the production. Alongside directing, MCG supervised further revisions of Finch and Litvick's screenplay while producer Devon Franklin joined the project. During this period, actor Kellen Lutz publicly revealed that he had met with MCG regarding the role of He-Man, fueling speculation about potential casting. In April 2017, Sony announced an ambitious theatrical release date of December 18, 2019. Shortly afterward, however, MCG departed the production. Screenwriter David S. Goyer was subsequently hired to rewrite the script and later entered negotiations to direct the film himself. By late 2017, Goyer had become both writer and director of the project. In early 2018, Goyer ultimately stepped away from directing due to scheduling commitments, although he remained attached as both executive producer and screenwriter. During his involvement, acclaimed creature designer Carlos Humont, whose career included work at Industrial Light Magic as well as contributions to the original Masters of the Universe animated series, developed extensive creature concepts for Goyer's vision. Huant later revealed that Goyer's screenplay envisioned the franchise on the epic cinematic scale of The Lord of the Rings, featuring massive fantasy environments, elaborate practical creatures, and large-scale battles. According to Huant, Sony ultimately determined that realizing such an ambitious vision would be prohibitively expensive, leading the studio to abandon Goyer's screenplay in favor of a less costly creative direction. In April 2018, directing duties were officially assigned to filmmaking brothers Aaron Ney and Adam Ney, marking another complete creative restart for the project. Several months later, writers Art Markham and Matt Holloway were hired to develop a new screenplay. By March 2019, actor Noah Centineo entered negotiations to portray Prince Adam, He-Man, and officially confirmed his casting the following month. Centineo remained attached to the production for nearly 2 years while pre-production continued to evolve, but in April 2021 he formally exited the project following repeated delays and uncertainty surrounding the film's production schedule. The project underwent its most dramatic transformation in January 2022 when Netflix officially acquired the film rights from Sony Pictures. Having already expanded the franchise through the animated series Masters of the Universe, Revelation and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Netflix sought to launch its own live-action adaptation. The studio cast Kyle Allen as Prince Adam, He-Man, while confirming that Aaron Ney, Adam Ney, and David Callahan had completed an entirely new screenplay. Allen undertook an intensive physical training program, later revealing that he spent approximately 6 hours each day preparing for the physically demanding title role. Despite significant investment in pre-production, costume development, visual effects planning, and set design, the project continued to face escalating production costs. In July 2023, Netflix officially canceled the film after reportedly investing approximately $30 million in development. The streaming service cited mounting budgetary concerns and the escalating financial requirements of bringing Eternia to life on screen as the primary reasons for abandoning the production. Following the cancellation, Mattel Studios regained control of the property and immediately began seeking a new studio partner capable of financing the ambitious fantasy epic. The cancellation also marked the departure of the Ney brothers from the project, bringing another chapter of the film's lengthy development process to a close before the property was ultimately revived by Amazon MGM Studios in 2024 with director Travis Knight, leading to the version of Masters of the Universe that was eventually produced and released in 2026. It looks like the section you pasted is development, not voices. Here's the rewritten version in a detailed, modern encyclopedia-style paragraph format. Development of a new live-action Masters of the Universe film underwent one of the longest and most complicated production histories of any major Hollywood franchise, spanning nearly 2 decades before finally reaching theaters. Following the commercial failure of the 1987 live-action adaptation, several attempts were made to revive the property. In 2007, acclaimed action filmmaker John Woo was reportedly attached to direct a new live-action reboot for Warner Bros. Pictures, although the project never progressed beyond the early stages of development and was ultimately never officially greenlit. As the proposed production stalled, the film rights reportedly reverted to Mattel, allowing the toy company to begin pursuing a new adaptation with different studio partners. In the following years, Warner Bros. Pictures announced that John Stevenson, best known for directing Kung Fu Panda, had become attached to direct a new Masters of the Universe feature film. In May 2009, screenwriter Evan Doherty was hired to write the screenplay. Lyle Stevenson remained attached as director. However, later that year the project underwent a major shift when Sony Pictures Entertainment acquired the film rights from Warner Bros. After Mattel and producer Joel Silver, who had previously been developing the project, were unable to agree on its creative direction. Sony assigned the film to Columbia Pictures, with escape artists producers Todd Black, Jason Blumenthal, and Steve Tisch rebuilding the adaptation from the ground up rather than continuing previous drafts. In April 2010, Screenwriters Mike Finch and Alex Litvick were hired to produce an entirely new screenplay as Sony searched for the creative approach that would successfully modernize the franchise for contemporary audiences. Development continued throughout the early 2010s with numerous creative revisions. By late 2012, filmmaker John M. Chu entered negotiations to direct the film, while original He-Man actor Dolph Lundgren publicly expressed interest in returning to the franchise in the role of King Randor. Around the same period, Richard Wank was brought in to rewrite the screenplay. Chu later described the proposed adaptation as a sincere origin story rather than a compy reinterpretation of the classic animated series. In 2013, however, Terry Rossio was hired to develop another version of the screenplay, reportedly emphasizing Eternia itself as the primary setting instead of Earth. At the same time, Chu departed the project, leaving the production once again searching for both a director and a definitive creative vision. Throughout 2014 and 2015, Sony met with numerous filmmakers as the studio attempted to move the project into production. Directors including Joe Cornish, Ryan Johnson, Andre Tilde, copyright S. Muschianti, Kirk Dimeko, Chris Sanders, Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, Mike Cahill, Jeff Wadlow, Harold Swart, and Chris Mackay were all reportedly considered at various stages. Eventually, Jeff Wadlow emerged as the leading candidate and began rewriting the screenplay while preparing to direct. Despite this progress, Sony continued refining the project, and in August 2015 veteran comic book writer Christopher Yost was hired to produce yet another screenplay revision. Another significant creative overhaul occurred in 2016 when director MCG officially joined the production. Alongside directing, MCG supervised further revisions of Finch and Litvick's screenplay while producer Devon Franklin joined the project. During this period, actor Kellen Lutz publicly revealed that he had met with MCG regarding the role of He-Man, fueling speculation about potential casting. In April 2017, Sony announced an ambitious theatrical release date of December 18, 2019. Shortly afterward, however, MCG departed the production. Screenwriter David S. Goyer was subsequently hired to rewrite the script and later entered negotiations to direct the film himself. By late 2017, Goyer had become both writer and director of the project. In early 2018, Goyer ultimately stepped away from directing due to scheduling commitments, although he remained attached as both executive producer and screenwriter. During his involvement, acclaimed creature designer Carlos Humont, whose career included work at Industrial Light Magic as well as contributions to the original Masters of the Universe animated series, developed extensive creature concepts for Goyer's vision. Humont later revealed that Goyer's screenplay envisioned the franchise on the epic cinematic scale of The Lord of the Rings, featuring massive fantasy environments, elaborate practical creatures, and large-scale battles. According to Humont, Sony ultimately determined that realizing such an ambitious vision would be prohibitively expensive, leading the studio to abandon Goyer's screenplay in favor of a less costly creative direction. In April 2018, directing duties were officially assigned to filmmaking brothers Aaron Ney and Adam Ney, marking another complete creative restart for the project. Several months later, writers Art Markham and Matt Holloway were hired to develop a new screenplay. By March 2019, actor Noah Centineo entered negotiations to portray Prince Adam, He-Man, and officially confirmed his casting the following month. Centineo remained attached to the production for nearly 2 years while pre-production continued to evolve, but in April 2021 he formally exited the project following repeated delays and uncertainty surrounding the film's production schedule. The project underwent its most dramatic transformation in January 2022 when Netflix officially acquired the film rights from Sony Pictures. Having already expanded the franchise through the animated series Masters of the Universe, Revelation and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Netflix sought to launch its own live-action adaptation. The studio cast Kyle Allen as Prince Adam, He-Man, while confirming that Aaron Ney, Adam Ney, and David Callahan had completed an entirely new screenplay. Allen undertook an intensive physical training program, later revealing that he spent approximately 6 hours each day preparing for the physically demanding title role. Despite significant investment in pre-production, costume development, visual effects planning, and set design, the project continued to face escalating production costs. In July 2023, Netflix officially cancelled the film after reportedly investing approximately $30 million in development. The streaming service cited mounting budgetary concerns and the escalating financial requirements of bringing Eternia to life on screen as the primary reasons for abandoning the production. Following the cancellation, Mattel Studios regained control of the property and immediately began seeking a new studio partner capable of financing the ambitious fantasy epic. The cancellation also marked the departure of the Ney brothers from the project, bringing another chapter of the film's lengthy development process to a close before the property was ultimately revived by Amazon MGM Studios in 2024 with director Travis Knight, leading to the version of Masters of the Universe that was eventually produced and released in 2026. Following Netflix's cancellation of the project in 2023, Mattel Studios immediately began seeking a new distribution partner capable of financing the large-scale fantasy epic. In November 2023, reports emerged that Amazon MGM Studios had entered negotiations to acquire the live-action film rights, marking the beginning of a new chapter for the long-gestating adaptation. Unlike previous incarnations of the project, Amazon MGM envisioned Masters of the Universe as a major theatrical tentpole and the cornerstone of its expanding relationship with Mattel following the success of several toy-based film adaptations. After acquiring the rights, the studio elected to abandon much of Netflix's planned production while retaining elements of its screenplay, initiating another creative overhaul intended to deliver a more faithful cinematic interpretation of Eternia and its mythology. In February 2024, Amazon MGM Studios announced that acclaimed filmmaker Travis Knight had entered final negotiations to direct the film, replacing longtime attached directors Aaron Ney and Adam Ney, who departed following Netflix's cancellation. Knight, celebrated for combining emotionally driven storytelling with large-scale visual spectacle, was selected to redefine the project's creative direction while emphasizing practical filmmaking, elaborate world-building, and character-focused fantasy. To support Knight's vision, his longtime creative collaborator Chris Butler was hired to produce a substantial rewrite of the existing screenplay, refining the story while preserving selected material developed by the Ney brothers and screenwriter David Callahan. Butler's revisions reportedly strengthened the emotional relationships between Prince Adam and Teela, expanded the mythology surrounding Castle Grayskull and the power of Grayskull, and placed greater emphasis on Adam's journey from an ordinary young man on Earth to Eternia's destined champion. Amazon MGM Studios officially confirmed Knight's appointment as director in May 2024, signaling that the film had finally entered active pre-production after more than 15 years of development across multiple studios. With the director firmly in place, the production rapidly assembled a creative team specializing in large-scale fantasy filmmaking. Academy Award-winning production designer Guy Hendricks Stias joined the project to oversee the visual realization of Eternia, Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, Eternos, and the film's numerous practical environments. Working closely with Knight, Dias developed an original visual identity that blended the classic aesthetics of Mattel's toy line and Filmation's animated series with contemporary cinematic fantasy, incorporating monumental architecture, ancient mystical civilizations, advanced Eternian technology, and expansive practical sets enhanced by visual effects. Costume designer Richard Sale was brought aboard to create the film's extensive wardrobe, redesigning many of the franchise's iconic costumes for live-action while remaining faithful to their classic appearances. His work combined medieval-inspired armor, science fiction elements, and fantasy aesthetics to produce distinctive costumes for the heroic warriors, Skeletor's evil warriors, the Royal Guard, and the inhabitants of Eternia. Particular attention was devoted to modernizing the recognizable designs of He-Man, Skeletor, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Evelyn, and numerous supporting characters while ensuring they remain instantly recognizable to longtime fans. The screenplay ultimately reflected the collaborative efforts of numerous writers who had contributed to the project throughout its lengthy development history. Chris Butler, Aaron Ney, Adam Ney, and David Callahan received the official screenplay by credit for the finished film, acknowledging the substantial contributions made during both the Netflix and Amazon MGM versions of the project. Aaron Ney, Adam Ney, Alex Litvick, and Mike Finn shared the story by credit, recognizing their foundational work in shaping the narrative upon which the final screenplay was based. In addition, the production granted additional literary material credit to an extensive list of writers whose concepts, treatments, drafts, or revisions influenced various stages of the film's nearly two-decade development. These contributors included Lindsay Beer, Will Beall, Peter Craig, David Odell, screenwriter of the original 1987 Masters of the Universe film, Terry Rossio, MCG, David S. Goyer, Justin Rhodes, Christopher Yost, Jason Keller, Art Markham, Matt Holloway, Christopher Ford, Richard Wank, Chris Schaffer, Paul Vickner, and Jeff Wadlow. Their collective work represented one of the largest creative writing efforts behind the modern fantasy blockbuster, reflecting the film's unusually long and frequently reinvented journey from its earliest conception to its eventual theatrical release in 2026. Following Amazon MGM Studios' acquisition of the Masters of the Universe film rights and the appointment of Travis Knight as director, casting officially began in mid-2024 with the goal of assembling an ensemble capable of launching a new live-action era for the franchise. Knight sought performers who could balance the larger-than-life fantasy elements of the property with grounded emotional performances, while also honoring the iconic characters established through Mattel's toy line and the classic animated series. As pre-production accelerated, the studio gradually unveiled one of the largest casts ever assembled for a Masters of the Universe adaptation. Only weeks after Amazon MGM Studios assumed control of the project, Nicholas Galitzine was announced as the new Prince Adam, He-Man, replacing Kyle Allen, who had been attached to Netflix's cancelled version of the film. Galitzine underwent months of intensive physical conditioning, martial arts training, swordsmanship instruction, and stunt preparation to portray both Adam's ordinary life on Earth and his transformation into the legendary champion of Grayskull. Director Travis Knight praised Galitzine's ability to embody both the vulnerability of Prince Adam and the heroic confidence of He-Man, describing him as the ideal actor to carry the emotional heart of the film while delivering the physical presence required for the franchise's most iconic hero. In August 2024, Camila Mendes joined the production as Teela, captain of the Royal Guard and one of Eternia's greatest warriors. Mendes similarly completed extensive combat, weapons, horseback, and stunt training in preparation for the physically demanding role. Knight emphasized that his interpretation of Teela would present her as an equal partner to Adam rather than merely a supporting character, expanding her leadership role within the heroic warriors while further developing her lifelong friendship and evolving romance with the Prince of Eternia. The following month, Alison Brie was cast as Evelyn, Skeletor's powerful sorceress and most trusted advisor. Brie approached the role by exploring Evelyn's intelligence, ambition, and moral complexity, portraying the character as far more than a traditional fantasy villain. Rather than simply serving Skeletor, Evelyn's performance highlights her own ambitions for magical supremacy, positioning her as one of the film's most unpredictable antagonists and laying narrative groundwork for her expanded role in future installments. One of the production's most widely discussed casting announcements centered on Jared Leto, who actively pursued the role of Skeletor. According to director Travis Knight, Leto personally contacted both the filmmakers and Amazon MGM Studios after learning that the film had entered pre-production, expressing his lifelong admiration for the Masters of the Universe franchise and his desire to portray its legendary villain. Knight later explained that Leto wanted the opportunity to swing for the fences creatively, embracing Skeletor's theatrical personality while also portraying him as a genuinely intimidating and tragic dark sorcerer. Following extensive discussions with the creative team, Leto officially joined the cast in December 2024 as the film's primary antagonist. In November 2024, Idris Elba entered the production as Duncan, man-at-arms, the legendary military commander of Eternia, master inventor, and Prince Adam's lifelong mentor. Knight praised Elba's commanding screen presence and emotional range, describing him as the perfect choice to portray the courageous warrior whose guidance helps shape Adam into He-Man. Elba performed many of his own practical action sequences while also training extensively with the film's stunt and weapons teams to portray the seasoned battlefield veteran. The December 2024 casting announcement also introduced several members of Skeletor's evil warriors. Sam C. Wilson was cast as the cybernetic mercenary Trapjaw, one of Skeletor's deadliest enforcers, while Icelandic strongman and actor Hoffa 3/4 tilde cubed RJA tilde superscripto allows BJA tilde Pilkrorensen joined the production as the physical performer for the towering beast-like warrior Goat Man, whose voice would later be provided by Kellen Goff. Kojota completed the trio of villainous recruits by portraying Triclops, Skeletor's elite warrior distinguished by his rotating mechanical eyes and exceptional combat abilities. Each of the characters was realized through an extensive combination of practical makeup, prosthetics, motion capture performance, and digital visual effects. Casting continued into early 2025 as Amazon MGM Studios assembled the remainder of Eternia's royal family and heroic resistance. In February 2025, Morena Baccarin was cast as the sorceress of Castle Grayskull, the mystical guardian of Eternia's greatest power and Adam's spiritual guide. J.A. cubed Hans Hawker J.A. cubed Hannison joined as Malcolm, Fisto, the immensely powerful heroic warrior with his signature metal fist, while James Purefoy and Charlotte Riley were cast as King Randor and Queen Marlena, the rightful rulers of Eternia and Adam's parents. John Zhu-Jong was announced as Ram-Man, one of the heroic warriors renowned for his extraordinary strength and devastating headbutt attacks. The Earth-based supporting cast was expanded with Sashhirs Amata portraying Susie, Adam's supervisor during his ordinary life in Oklahoma City, and Christian Unapola joining as Hussein, Adam's loyal best friend and roommate whose unwavering support follows him from Earth to Eternia. Production continued adding key performers throughout principal photography. In August 2025, Kristen Wiig officially joined the cast as the voice of Roboto, the advanced Eternian combat android whose personality combines unwavering loyalty, mechanical precision, and unexpected warmth. Rather than portraying Roboto through a traditional live-action performance, the production employed a fully computer-generated character enhanced by performance capture and Wiig's vocal performance, allowing the filmmakers to faithfully recreate one of the franchise's most recognizable robotic heroes. As post-production neared completion, additional voice performers for several computer-generated characters were revealed. In May 2026, shortly before the film's theatrical premiere, veteran voice actor Gary Martin was officially announced as the voice of Beast Man, Skeletor's savage ape-like lieutenant capable of mentally controlling wild creatures. Martin's performance was combined with extensive motion capture work by John King and James Unsworth, whose physical performances served as the foundation for the digitally created character. Together with the remaining ensemble, the cast represented one of the most ambitious live-action interpretations of the Masters of the Universe mythology, bringing many of the franchise's most beloved heroes and villains to the screen for the first time in nearly 4 decades. Principal photography on Masters of the Universe officially commenced on January 6, 2025, marking the first time in the project's nearly 2-decade development history that cameras rolled on a completed live-action adaptation. Production was primarily based at Sky Studios L Street in Hertfordshire, England, where director Travis Knight and his creative team constructed some of the film's largest practical environments, including extensive sets representing the Royal Palace of Eternos, Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, the ruined streets of Eternos, the heroic warriors' resistance hideouts, and numerous interiors depicting both Eternia and Earth. Academy Award-nominated cinematographer Fabian Wagner served as director of photography, collaborating closely with Knight to establish a visual style that blended epic fantasy with grounded realism. Wagner employed a combination of large-format digital cinematography, practical lighting, natural landscapes, and elaborate visual effects integration to create a cinematic interpretation of Eternia that emphasized scale, texture, and authenticity while remaining faithful to the franchise's colorful visual identity. The beginning of production represented the culmination of numerous previously abandoned filming schedules throughout the project's lengthy development. During Sony Pictures' version of the film, principal photography had originally been planned to begin in mid-2019 in Prague, Czech Republic, before repeated script revisions, director changes, and production delays forced the schedule to be abandoned. Following Netflix's acquisition of the project, filming was rescheduled first for summer 2022 and later for April 2023, with extensive pre-production already underway. However, Netflix ultimately cancelled the production before cameras could begin rolling, resulting in another complete restart after Amazon MGM Studios acquired the rights. The 2025 production therefore became the first successful realization of plans that had been postponed for several years across multiple studios and creative teams. Sky Studios Elstree served as the central production hub for the film, with numerous sound stages housing elaborate practical sets specifically designed to minimize reliance on entirely digital environments. Production designer Guy Hendricks Stias oversaw the construction of massive fantasy sets inspired by Mattel's original toy line, Filmation's animated series, and classic sword and sorcery artwork. Castle Grayskull was realized through a combination of full-scale architectural sets, detailed miniatures, and digital extensions, while Snake Mountain featured towering rock formations, volcanic caverns, and intricate throne room interiors constructed on sound stages before being enhanced through visual effects. The production also recreated Earth-based locations, including Adam Glenn's apartment, his workplace in Oklahoma City, local streets, and the comic book store where the Sword of Power is rediscovered, allowing the film to transition naturally between its contemporary and fantasy settings. In addition to Sky Studios Elstree, significant portions of production were completed at Bray Film Studios in Berkshire, England, where specialized sound stages accommodated many of the film's complex action sequences, creature effects, and visual effects intensive scenes. Bray's facilities were also used for extensive stunt rehearsals, motion capture photography, and second unit filming involving numerous members of Skull Eater's Evil Warriors. The combination of both studio complexes enabled the production to build expansive practical environments while providing sufficient space for large-scale battle sequences involving hundreds of performers, stunt artists, practical effects, and digital enhancements. Extensive location photography was undertaken throughout the United Kingdom to provide authentic landscapes for both Earth and Eternia. Modern-day Earth sequences were filmed across Canary Wharf in London, with prominent locations including Cabot Square, surrounding business districts, pedestrian plazas, and Canary Wharf Underground Station, which doubled as parts of Oklahoma City during Adam's life on Earth. These locations were selected for their contemporary architecture, contrasting sharply with the ancient fantasy environments of Eternia and emphasizing Adam's ordinary existence before reclaiming his heroic destiny. The production also traveled to several historic and natural landmarks across England to capture Eternia's ancient landscapes. Wells Cathedral in Somerset served as a principal filming location for portions of Eternos and the sacred architecture surrounding Castle Grayskull, with its medieval Gothic design providing an ideal foundation for the kingdom's majestic visual identity. Nearby Wookiee Hole caves supplied dramatic subterranean environments used for sequences depicting ancient tunnels, mystical caverns, and hidden passages beneath Eternia, while the historic Beer Quarry caves in Devon were transformed into additional underground chambers, prison complexes, and interior sections of Snake Mountain. These real-world locations were extensively enhanced through practical set extensions and computer-generated imagery to create the illusion of an expansive fantasy world while preserving the authenticity of natural rock formations and historic architecture. To further expand the scale of Eternia, the production also conducted location filming in Iceland, utilizing the country's volcanic landscapes, glaciers, lava fields, black sand deserts, rugged mountains, and dramatic waterfalls to portray some of Eternia's most remote and inhospitable regions. Icelandic production services were provided by True North, which coordinated local logistics, location management, transportation, and crew support. These breathtaking natural environments were used extensively for wide establishing shots, large-scale battlefields, and exterior vistas surrounding Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain, giving the film an epic visual scope while reducing dependence on entirely computer-generated. Filming placed a strong emphasis on practical stunt work and physical performances wherever possible. Nicholas Galitzine, Camila Mendes, Idris Elba, and several other principal cast members completed months of pre-production training in swordsmanship, hand-to-hand combat, horseback riding, weapons handling, and wire-assisted stunt choreography before filming commenced. Many of the film's action sequences were performed on practical sets with extensive use of prosthetic makeup, creature suits, pyrotechnics, and mechanical effects before being augmented by digital visual effects during post-production. Motion capture technology was also extensively employed to realize characters including Beast Man, Goat Man, Karg, and numerous other members of Skeletor's evil warriors, allowing the filmmakers to combine live performances with highly detailed computer-generated character animation. After more than 5 months of continuous production across studio sound stages and international locations, principal photography officially concluded on June 15, 2025. Lead actor Nicholas Galitzine confirmed the completion of filming through a message shared on his official Instagram account, expressing gratitude to the cast, crew, and filmmakers while celebrating the end of one of the most physically demanding productions of his career. The completion of principal photography marked a major milestone for the film, ending one of Hollywood's longest and most turbulent development journeys and allowing the production to transition into an extensive post-production process involving visual effects, sound design, editing, musical scoring, and final visual enhancements ahead of the film's worldwide theatrical release in 2026. Following the completion of principal photography on June 15, 2025, Masters of the Universe entered an extensive post-production period that continued for nearly a year ahead of its theatrical release in 2026. Under the supervision of director Travis Knight, editors, visual effects artists, sound designers, composers, and animation teams worked collaboratively to transform the live-action footage into a large-scale fantasy epic. Because the film featured numerous computer-generated characters, magical environments, elaborate action sequences, and interdimensional settings, post-production represented one of the most ambitious stages of the production, with hundreds of artists contributing across multiple visual effects and post-production facilities. Knight remained closely involved throughout the process, refining the film's pacing, emotional character arcs, and action choreography while ensuring that the finished feature balanced practical filmmaking with cutting-edge digital technology. The editorial process focused on shaping the film's dual-world narrative, seamlessly transitioning between Adam's ordinary life on Earth and his return to the mystical world of Eternia. Editors worked closely with Knight to preserve the emotional progression of Prince Adam's journey from an uncertain young man living under the name Adam Glen to the legendary hero He-Man. Particular attention was given to balancing large-scale fantasy spectacle with quieter character-driven moments involving Adam, Teela, Duncan, Queen Marlena, and the surviving heroic warriors. Multiple edits of the film were assembled throughout post-production before the final theatrical cut was completed, refining the pacing of the story, expanding several emotional scenes, and strengthening the climactic battle of Castle Grayskull. Visual effects constituted one of the largest components of post-production. Hundreds of effects shots were created to bring Eternia's fantastical mythology to life, combining practical photography with sophisticated computer-generated imagery. Digital artists expanded the physical sets constructed during production into sprawling kingdoms, ancient fortresses, volcanic landscapes, and mystical realms while preserving the tactile quality established during filming. Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, Eternos, Etheria, and numerous surrounding environments were enhanced through extensive digital extensions, matte paintings, atmospheric simulations, and large-scale environmental effects to create a fully realized fantasy world that remained faithful to the visual legacy of the Masters of the Universe franchise. Several major characters were completed through a combination of motion capture technology, computer animation, and voice performances. Beast Man, Goat Man, Karg, and numerous members of Skeletor's evil warriors underwent months of digital animation following the completion of principal photography, integrating the physical performances captured on set with highly detailed computer-generated models. Likewise, Roboto was realized as a fully digital character, with Kristen Wiig's vocal performance synchronized to advanced facial animation and mechanical body movement. Cringer and his transformed counterpart, Battle Cat, also required extensive animation work to seamlessly blend realistic animal behavior with expressive performances befitting one of the franchise's most beloved companions. The film's magical effects demanded particularly complex visual development. The mystical energy surrounding the Sword of Power, Castle Grayskull, the power of Grayskull transformation, Skeletor's Havoc staff, evil and spellcasting, dimensional portals, and the sorceress' supernatural abilities were all created through layered visual effects simulations that combined practical lighting references captured on set with digital particle systems, energy effects, and environmental interaction. Adam's transformation into He-Man became one of the film's most technically sophisticated sequences, requiring intricate compositing, digital lighting, and visual enhancements designed to portray the immense mystical power bestowed upon Eternia's chosen champion. Sound post-production played an equally significant role in establishing the film's epic scale. Dialogue recorded during principal photography was refined through extensive automated dialogue replacement, ADR, while additional vocal performances were recorded for computer-generated characters and large battle sequences. The sound design team created thousands of original effects representing magical energy, futuristic Eternian technology, ancient weapons, mythical creatures, and large-scale combat. Every major environment from the halls of Castle Grayskull and the volcanic caverns of Snake Mountain to the bustling streets of Eternos and the modern cityscape of Oklahoma City received unique ambient soundscapes designed to reinforce each location's distinct atmosphere. The musical score was completed during the latter stages of post-production, blending sweeping orchestral compositions with modern cinematic themes to reflect both the mythic grandeur of Eternia and the emotional journey of Prince Adam. Character-specific musical motifs were developed for He-Man, Skeletor, Teela, the Sorceress, and the heroic warriors, while the climactic Battle of Castle Grayskull featured some of the score's most expansive orchestral material. The music was carefully integrated with the film's action and emotional sequences to reinforce Adam's transformation into the legendary Defender of Eternia. Color grading and digital intermediate work represented the final major phase of post-production. Working closely with cinematographer Fabian Wagner, Travis Knight supervised the film's final visual appearance to establish distinct palettes for each setting. Earth sequences emphasized grounded naturalism with cooler, contemporary tones, while Eternia featured richer colors, heightened contrast, and vibrant fantasy-inspired imagery that highlighted the kingdom's mystical landscapes and legendary architecture. The volcanic environments surrounding Snake Mountain adopted darker, more oppressive tones to contrast with the luminous magical energy associated with Castle Grayskull and the heroic warriors. The film also underwent extensive quality control, test screenings, and final technical mastering before its worldwide release. Feedback from internal preview screenings contributed to refinements in pacing, visual effects, and character moments, while additional finishing work was completed on several large action sequences and the film's mid-credits and post-credits scenes. By early 2026, post-production had concluded, delivering the completed theatrical version of Masters of the Universe. The nearly year-long finishing process represented the culmination of one of the most ambitious fantasy productions undertaken by Amazon MGM Studios, bringing Mattel's iconic universe to the big screen through a combination of practical craftsmanship, advanced digital technology, and modern blockbuster filmmaking. As of July 2, 2026, Masters of the Universe had grossed $63 million in the United States and Canada and $47 million from international territories, for a worldwide total of approximately $111 million, produced on a reported budget of $178-200 million, excluding marketing and distribution costs. The film was widely considered a commercial disappointment, as its worldwide earnings fell well below the level generally required for a major studio blockbuster to reach profitability. Although the film generated strong pre-release interest among longtime fans of the Masters of the Universe franchise and benefited from a significant global marketing campaign by Amazon MGM Studios and Sony Pictures Releasing International, its theatrical performance ultimately failed to meet industry expectations, making it one of the year's most notable box office underperformers. In the United States and Canada, Masters of the Universe was released theatrically on June 5, 2026, opening alongside the reboot of Scary Movie in what became one of the summer's most closely watched box office matchups. Prior to release, industry analysts projected an opening weekend debut of approximately $35 million from 3,677 theaters, reflecting moderate expectations for a fantasy adventure film based on a legacy intellectual property. During its preview screenings on Thursday evening, the film earned approximately $4.4 million, contributing to a first-day domestic gross of $11.7 million. While these figures suggested a respectable start, they also indicated softer audience demand than many analysts had anticipated given the film's substantial production budget and extensive promotional campaign. The film ultimately debuted with $29.3 million during its opening weekend, slightly below most industry projections. It finished in second place at the domestic box office behind Scary Movie, which exceeded expectations and attracted a significantly broader audience. Although Masters of the Universe benefited from strong attendance among longtime fans of the franchise and viewers nostalgic for the original 1980s toy line and animated series, audience turnout proved considerably weaker among younger moviegoers and general family audiences, limiting the film's ability to achieve breakout commercial success during its opening frame. The film experienced a particularly steep decline during its second weekend, earning approximately $8.6 million, representing a 70% decrease from its opening weekend gross. It dropped to fifth place in the domestic box office rankings, finishing behind the newly released Disclosure Day as well as Obsession, Scary Movie, and Backrooms. The sharp decline was viewed by industry observers as evidence that the film struggled to generate positive word-of-mouth beyond its core fanbase. Analysts noted that, despite its large-scale action, elaborate visual effects, and recognizable brand, the film was unable to sustain momentum in the increasingly competitive summer marketplace. Several entertainment industry commentators analyzed the reasons behind the film's commercial performance. Jeremy Fuster of The Wrap suggested that the adaptation failed to expand its audience beyond older viewers who had grown up with the original Masters of the Universe franchise during the 1980s. Arguing that its strongest appeal remained concentrated among Generation X fans with nostalgic connections to the property. Rebecca Rubin of Variety similarly observed that the film was rapidly emerging as one of the year's most significant box office disappointments, noting that its theatrical revenue would make it increasingly difficult to justify its reported production budget of between $170 million and $200 million, particularly when combined with its substantial worldwide marketing expenditures. Despite its theatrical underperformance, Amazon MGM Studios publicly maintained confidence in the long-term commercial prospects of the film. In response to media coverage surrounding its box office results, Kevin Wilson, Amazon MGM Studios head of domestic distribution, emphasized that the company viewed theatrical exhibition as only one component of its broader distribution strategy. Wilson highlighted the film's generally positive audience reception, strong engagement across digital platforms, and anticipated value as a premium streaming title following its exclusive theatrical window. According to Wilson, the theatrical release successfully introduced the franchise to new audiences while increasing overall awareness of the Masters of the Universe brand, positioning the film for continued success through premium video on demand, home entertainment sales, licensing, merchandising, and its eventual debut on the studio's streaming platform. Although its theatrical earnings fell substantially short of expectations and it was widely classified as a box office bomb, industry analysts noted that Masters of the Universe continued to generate ancillary revenue through merchandise, collectibles, physical media, digital purchases, television licensing, and streaming agreements. These additional revenue streams, combined with Mattel's broader strategy of expanding its entertainment portfolio across multiple media platforms, contributed to the studio's continued commitment to developing a sequel and further projects set within the Masters of the Universe cinematic universe, despite the financial challenges faced by the film during its theatrical run. Masters of the Universe received mixed reviews from critics upon its theatrical release, although general audiences responded considerably more positively. Many reviewers praised the film's ambitious world-building, faithful recreation of the classic franchise, energetic performances, large-scale fantasy action, and director Travis Knight's ability to balance sincerity with self-aware humor. Others, however, criticized the screenplay, tonal inconsistencies, uneven pacing, and its attempts to modernize a property rooted in 1980s popular culture. The resulting critical consensus reflected a film that successfully appealed to many longtime fans of the franchise while proving more divisive among professional critics evaluating it as a contemporary blockbuster. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, the film held an approval rating of 68% based on 239 professional reviews, with an average rating of 6.2 out of 10. The site's critical consensus stated, "By the power of Grayskull and with a little help from its self-deprecating script and spirited cast, Masters of the Universe is a delightful adventure that finds the humanity in He-Man." While the critical response remained moderately positive, audience reception proved substantially stronger. Based on more than 5,000 verified user ratings, the film earned an audience approval score of 86%, suggesting that moviegoers embraced the film's nostalgic tone, emotional sincerity, and action-oriented spectacle to a much greater extent than many critics. Review aggregator Metacritic, which assigns weighted scores to professional reviews, awarded the film a rating of 52 out of 100 based on 44 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Audience polling painted a somewhat more favorable picture. Moviegoers surveyed by CinemaScore assigned the film an average grade of B on the organization's A+ to F scale, while Post-Track reported that 64% of surveyed audiences said they would definitely recommend the film to others. Although these audience metrics reflected generally positive reactions, they also suggested that enthusiasm was somewhat more restrained than that typically associated with breakout blockbuster successes. Among the film's most consistently praised elements was Travis Knight's direction. Critics frequently highlighted his ability to embrace the inherently colorful and sometimes eccentric mythology of Masters of the Universe without resorting to outright parody. Many reviewers appreciated that the film acknowledged the franchise's larger-than-life characters, imaginative world, and toy-inspired origins while still treating its emotional core with sincerity. Knight's emphasis on practical sets, elaborate production design, and character-driven storytelling was also widely commended, with several critics describing the adaptation as a respectful modernization that remained faithful to the spirit of the original Mattel franchise. The performances of the ensemble cast likewise received widespread recognition. Nicholas Galitzine's portrayal of Prince Adam in He-Man was frequently praised for balancing vulnerability, humor, and heroism, successfully depicting Adam's transformation from an uncertain young man into Eternia's legendary champion. Camila Mendes earned favorable reviews for presenting Teela as a capable and emotionally grounded warrior rather than merely a supporting companion, by Idris Elba was widely commended for bringing authority, warmth, and gravitas to the role of Duncan, man-at-arms. Alison Brie's performance as Evelyn was also highlighted for adding intelligence and ambition to one of the franchise's classic villains. Perhaps the film's most widely discussed performance came from Jared Leto as Skeletor. Critics generally agreed that Leto fully embraced the theatrical nature of the iconic villain, delivering an intentionally exaggerated performance that drew inspiration from the character's animated origins while introducing darker psychological dimensions. Supporters described his portrayal as entertainingly eccentric, charismatic, and memorable, although some reviewers felt the performance occasionally bordered on excessive. Even among critics who expressed reservations about the film as a whole, Leto's willingness to commit completely to Skeletor's larger-than-life personality was frequently singled out as one of its most distinctive strengths. The film's action sequences, visual spectacle, and production values also attracted significant praise. Reviewers highlighted the large-scale battles across Eternia, the duel between He-Man and Skeletor inside Castle Grayskull, and the practical production design that brought iconic locations such as Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, and Eternos to life. Many critics appreciated the combination of practical sets, physical stunt work, creature effects, and computer-generated imagery, noting that the fantasy world possessed a tangible sense of scale that distinguished it from many contemporary effects-driven blockbusters. The nostalgic recreation of classic characters, vehicles, creatures, and weapons was also celebrated by longtime fans familiar with the original animated series and Mattel toy line. Despite these strengths, several aspects of the film divided critics. The screenplay received the most frequent criticism, with some reviewers arguing that it struggled to balance comedy, mythology, emotional drama, and blockbuster spectacle within a single narrative. Others felt that the pacing became uneven during the middle portion of the film as it transitioned between Adam's life on Earth and the political conflict unfolding on Eternia. The film's self-aware humor also generated mixed reactions, with some critics praising its playful tone while others believed it occasionally undermined dramatic moments or relied too heavily on contemporary blockbuster formulas established by films such as Thor, Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy. Among the more enthusiastic reviews, Clint Gage of IGN awarded the film 8 out of 10, describing it as an affectionate adaptation that respected the source material while never becoming embarrassed by its colorful mythology or unconventional character names. Gage particularly praised the film's willingness to embrace the franchise's inherent absurdity rather than attempting to reinvent it into a more grounded fantasy epic. He also singled out Jared Leto's Skeletor as a delightfully weird and cartoonish interpretation that captured the spirit of the classic villain while remaining entertaining throughout the film. Writing for the Irish Times, Donald Clark described the adaptation as a minor miracle, praising its confident ability to navigate what he characterized as the delicate balance between genuine emotional storytelling and playful fantasy adventure. Similarly, Zaki Hassan of the San Francisco Chronicle commended the film for delivering a heartfelt fantasy epic driven by conviction, humor, and emotional sincerity rather than irony alone. Ricky Arculeta of Film Threat proved to be among the film's strongest supporters, awarding it a perfect 10 out of 10 score and celebrating its energetic action sequences, enthusiastic performances, optimistic tone, and unapologetically heroic spirit, arguing that it successfully captured the timeless appeal of classic adventure storytelling. Not all critics were equally receptive. Kyle Smith of the Wall Street Journal characterized the film as an effects-heavy spectacle whose abundance of digital imagery often overwhelmed its storytelling, suggesting that its visual excess sometimes came at the expense of narrative focus. Kevin Marr of The Times awarded the film 2 out of 5 stars, criticizing what he viewed as an inconsistent screenplay and arguing that its attempts to emulate the tone of modern fantasy comedy blockbusters resulted in an experience lacking a distinctive identity. Marr further contended that the film's mixture of comedy, action, and social commentary frequently worked against itself rather than forming a cohesive whole. One of the film's most critical reviews came from Benjamin Lee of The Guardian, who also awarded it 2 out of 5 stars. Lee questioned the necessity of reviving the franchise with such a substantial production budget, arguing that the film failed to justify the enormous financial investment required to bring the property back to theaters. He described the adaptation as an overproduced attempt to revive a legacy toy-based intellectual property that, in his view, no longer possessed sufficient cultural relevance to support the blockbuster franchise. Although professional critics remained divided, audience reception consistently proved more favorable. Many viewers praised the film for embracing the optimistic heroism, colorful fantasy mythology, and adventurous spirit that had defined Masters of the Universe for generations. Fans of the original franchise particularly appreciated its faithful interpretation of classic characters, practical production design, emotional treatment of Prince Adam's journey, and respectful modernization of Eternia's mythology. While its mixed critical reception and disappointing box office performance limited its immediate commercial success, the film gradually developed a reputation among fans as an earnest and entertaining revival of one of Mattel's most enduring fantasy properties, helping to sustain interest in the planned continuation of the Masters of the Universe cinematic universe. Review: Masters of the Universe should have been huge. The potential was right there for a truly epic He-Man movie. The characters look surprisingly good, the special effects are much better than expected, and the fight scenes actually deliver when the movie allows them to breathe. Unfortunately, Masters of the Universe is also a massive misfire, and now the box office is proving it. Instead of fully embracing the testosterone-driven fantasy adventure fans have wanted for decades, the movie turns into a try-hard, Marvel-style quip machine packed